Unplugged Borders, brought to you by Smota's Volcano Sauce.
Hello, Weinstein.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm pretty well. I've been trying to clean up nicely for our interview or podcast.
You've done very, very well. I enjoy. I like the background. I like the flowers.
Thank you. This is old Soviet flowers.
You know,
We're living in a very old apartment now.
you know what's funny? Because I interviewed Andre for my first podcast for the for. Because it's just I just had this idea that I needed to get the Belarusian comedian on because of obviously what's going on there.
Yeah.
And he was at a cafe, and literally the cafe had almost the exact same background as what you have right now. So I think that just the flowers are sort of this ubiquitous Soviet style. Just don't worry, everything okay. Look at flowers; they're so pretty.
Yes, but also we have like a range of very famous artists that only did nature. So.
Right. Well, I mean, were they just? It was like Dostoevsky. They were just paid by the word. They were paid by the flower.
That would be very well, but they were not that well paid, so probably not.
No, they just had flowers because that's all they could eat. So, I mean, I've been wanting to ask because I haven't talked to you really since we did your podcast last, Quarantine Comedian.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, at that time, every comedy club in the world was shut. We had nothing to do. There was no shows going on anywhere in the world. A lot has happened since then. I mean, how is Russia recovered? Are you guys doing shows again, or?
We're doing pretty well. We're doing shows for a month now, probably. We did a bunch of open mics. We did one feature show with guests. The guys came in from Moscow. And considering they have a great variety of international comedians, we have collected ourselves to do like a good show. And in Moscow, it's just going on and on and on because soon there's going to be opened in a new club by Still the Show. And they're going to open their own club on 19th, actually. I've been invited, but I'm sadly working.
Oh, this month?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. That's great.
They will have Spanish open mics. They do have English open mics. They will have even Russian open mics. Surprise, right?
Is David doing the Spanish open mics or?
Yes, absolutely. He's hosting it.
Yeah, this is one of the things I mean, I obviously said this in the show I did about Russia, about how like this really surprised me about Russia because we always get this idea that Russia has to be the sort of Cold War it's always the bad guy in every movie, and we don't imagine Russia as being this international haven for something as ubiquitous as stand-up comedy. But that's one of the things I loved about it, is that even both St. Petersburg and Moscow have this sort of they have this beauty and niceness about them that they have actually they're very international comedy.
Moscow a little more than St. Petersburg, but
really,
in general, yes. Yeah.
So I don't know. I felt like St. Pete was a bit. Well, I mean, yeah. The comedy scene obviously maybe is a little bit more, probably bigger. It's moderate, right. But no, I mean, like it's you walk into what was the bar that we did the shows at in St. Petersburg? Bedavaris, that's right.
It used to be in Bedavaris, and we've actually been invited for a year to perform in the biggest club here in St. Petersburg for comedy, and I've been doing shows there.
Really? Well, so you're not doing shows there still, or have you moved? Or
we've moved to Hophead. We're still St. Pete's Comedy Cabinet, but we have a I don't know, a motherland there in Hophead stand-up club. They've been really nice to us.
All right. And has it been better? I mean, obviously Bedavaris was nice. It had that old feel, like when you were when you used to go to pubs and ask them, hey, can we do comedy every Wednesday night, or can we do comedy on the weekends? Because you had the bar right next to the stage, and then you go up on stage, and then there'd still be people ordering and everything, and it just had that old nice sort of vibe to it. Is this one different, or?
Well, is it old and nice, or is it unprofessional? It's always a question. As a comedian, come on, it's so much nicer to work in a comedy club. Like when the waiters know to not interrupt your show, when the waiters are like, we have buttons on tables to call the waiter so people don't have to look for them or look for the bar and anything like that. They go through the tables and check people out and like paying for everything silently. Never once being on stage in Hophead I've heard a waiter ever.
That is a very, very nice luxury that well, I mean, I didn't have that in Moscow. When I headlined my show in Moscow, it was sort of like being at like one of those old Wild West bars, where the only thing missing was like a piano and a guy shooting his six-shooter. I mean, but
piano man. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
We got a sound guy. Honestly, we have a whole arrangement of sound guys that do our lights and music.
And it's been nice. I mean, you have professional people.
We've upgraded. Let's say it.
All right. And I mean, obviously because one of the things I was asking Andre was because he said that Minsk has a stand-up comedy club, and that they've been doing shows. They used to do more during the before the presidential election, is what he said. Yeah,
I can imagine.
So I loved his attitude, which was basically that they've tried, they've not done as many shows, and I guess what he was saying kind of resonated with what you said when I asked you, that when I came to Russia, which is that does the government care about what you're doing? And you gave a really good answer, which was when I asked you about censorship, and you were like, no, this is my club. This is like, it happens the way I want it to happen.
Considering we like the club where I am now has also been in hot water with the government earlier this year. I don't know if you've heard the story about a Russian comedian who joked about religion and was pursued for it legally.
No.
That's the resident of our club. Actually, BBC wrote about us.
You're such a bad influence. What?
I'm such a bad influence. There is this really nice Russian comedian, Alexander Dolgopolov,
mm-hmm.
and he did his 1-hour stand-up special in Hophead, where our motherland is, and of old comedians in St. Petersburg. And it was online, obviously, and some person have decided that he was religiously offended by that stand-up. So he filed a report. The police started looking into it, and Sasha fled the country, basically. Well, that was a little dramatic because we did not think that anything really bad would come out of it, because please. And but that was A, great PR, and B, he was due to go on his tour. That was actually in February when we did our Scandinavian tour with guys, and we met in Berlin almost, but not really, because he was in Medusa when we did our show. He was, I think, 14th, 15th, 16th, and our show was 17th right after him. And he had packed shows, full shows. A lot of people got to know about him because of this thing. But
I mean, there's no such thing as bad PR, is what we say in the business. But but that's an interesting point. Is that I mean that you think of you've come from the time of the Soviet Union where religion was banned and everything, and then you get to the point where people can file complaints and actually have comedians. Well, you can have comedians flee the country. Just because of something that's said about religion. I mean, because it's an interesting sort of development. I know that Poland is getting very, very religious, and they're sort of, I guess, religion in a lot of Central and Eastern European countries seems to be turning into this sort of pretense for nationalism.
Yeah.
Is that the same in Russia?
Absolutely. We are not Catholics. We are Orthodox, and it's slightly different, and also in all the procedures and stuff like that. Well, I'm not Orthodox or a believer per se. Very Jewish to my core, but it definitely has an effect on the idea of nationalism. It definitely has an effect on history and culture of the people and the self-image of the nation. Absolutely. Like as a practicing psychologist as well, and as somewhat a person who's very close to modern science and all of its ways, I can see how it would sound awful. Religion is a rebound for people scorned with relationships with Soviet Union. So this is like, it was forbidden, but now I'm gonna like date my old girlfriend who was nice to me, and it still had like one great leader. It still has one great leader, and I'm just gonna stick with it. But there've been a lot of divisions in church lately as well in Russia. If you probably don't know that we have in Urals, we have a monastery that's basically a cult now, and everybody knows about it. But considering it's led by a monk, Russian church can't do shit about it.
Oh wow! Is it? Are they in relation to that Ukrainian guy who said that COVID was caused by gay people?
No, that's at first for me. But this guy was doing a COVID like healing over Telegram or something.
Oh, so he was like that American minister on the TV who was like healing people through the TV who were watching him. If they were lucky enough to be on the that exact channel when they were watching TV. But I mean,
they were healed.
But I mean, it kind of like it does probably feed into. I mean, at least for countries like Poland, the whole religious element, it does feed into that sort of the idea. Oh, family, not too keen about gay people. This sort of like tradition. I think that's what really like at the core of it. It's always about tradition. I mean, it's probably a natural thing that Russia would, after the Soviet Union, and especially during a time right now where there's this sort of, I guess, not, I don't want to say doubting, but, the country sort of feels like it needs to, in a sense, make Russia great again. that would be a good outlet. The people would like, oh, hey, the Putin would see religion as actually being a good thing that would actually serve the government's purpose.
Yes, absolutely. Because Putin and our like high up, I don't know how to translate it, but he's a patriarch Kirill. They're best buddies, and everybody knows about what's going on. And you see, it's considering we had our own way. We're very delusional right now with what's going on in the country. Most of the people are delusional because if you talk about make America great again, there are money and put where the mouth is. Like we can talk shit about Trump all day and like laugh at him, but he's the only president that pretty much fulfilled every promise on his campaign, which is astonishing to me. And in his own sense, he is fulfilling absolutely everything that he promised to do. But in Russia, we have this stickers.
You might say that Trump is Russia's greatest accomplishment.
Pretty much. We are the same people. We love the same. We work the same. We voted their president. It's what we do. It's where was I? So
the stickers.
In Russia, it's an absolutely delusion. We have this bumper stickers that said, "Remember Berlin? We can do it again." No, you fucking can't, because you're ridiculous. And we're writing off the victories of the people who were 70 years ago. That's the biggest holiday in Russia is the Second World War ending and winning, so to speak, which I am not undermining veterans or the victory itself. And it's been 75 years ago.
Yeah, and I suppose that whole sort of I keep thinking of that Jim Carrey bit when he said, it's really sad. You can tell how sad a person's life is by how far back they have to go to achieve greatness. And he's like, "Did I ever tell you when I was a sperm? Oh, I was the fastest one that day." It's that sort of Like we have to coast on the achievements of previous generations.
Mm.
I mean, and well, yeah, I guess there's plenty of comedians who've done that. Doug Stanhope had that bit also about how Americans will say, like, back when they're like, oh, fuck the French, if they hadn't, if we hadn't saved their asses in 2 world wars, they'd be speaking German now. It's like, oh, really? That was us, me and you, Tommy. We saved the French. I blacked out after that 6th shot of Jameson, but I don't remember saving the French.
I mean, we can think back to Napoleon, and
Yeah.
that's still a thing. So that's very sad. That's very sad.
Do you remember what the Cossacks did?
Mhm.
I
Somehow, nobody's remembering how we were like having our asses handed to us, like during Russian-Japanese War.
yeah,
Nobody likes to remember about that.
1905, the first time the West really realized that Japan was a rising empire.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I mean it was.
Not all kawaii all of a sudden, eh?
It's interesting. Because obviously the main news story right now relating to Russia is how great your guys' tea is, especially served at the airports. I mean, is that even time? Because they're not even hiding it anymore. It's just.
Is there a point of hiding it anymore?
It's like. It's like.
I mean, the Charité doctors were quite open about what's happening. Like they went out with a press release for the poisoning and everything like that. And to make that poison, you need a whole freaking lab. Like, how do you hide a lab? Like, my one idea is from the last movie, Gentlemen. Like somewhere in the midst of Siberia, there is a garage. And under it, there is a lab for Novichok and everything.
Well, I mean, as soon as they said it was a nerve poison, I was like, yeah, that sounds just taken straight out of a Bond film.
Not really, because neuroleptics, as much as they are now on a very forefront of healing people, they're also on the forefront of fucking people up.
2 birds with 1 stone, right? But I mean, yeah, that's an interesting point. Is that they with the poisoning with I mean, obviously, like you're saying, that they're not even hiding anymore. There's been, I mean, there were protests going on in Moscow when I was there. The last one obviously was in the east, right? There was this town.
It's still going on.
It's still going on.
It's still going on because I recently saw the interview with their new mayor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There was a woman taking it. I have balls. I like to think that I have balls, but that woman has balls. Because like even watching him on screen was scary. Like he was so aggressive and so on edge and so just unpleasant as a person. Like fighting tooth and nail to not speak about what's happening right under these windows. It was ridiculous. Like I felt scared midway.
Right. I mean, like, okay, so for those who don't know, I mean, it was basically this politician who was, or the mayor who was against Putin, but they got him on some trumped up charges for
He was a rivaling party.
He was a rival party, yeah.
Yeah.
And like there was something, was it like corruption based or something that was like from like 15 years ago, right?
Yep. They've cooked up a lawsuit and they've sent him to jail, and obviously he's not a mayor anymore, Furgal. And now they have a person in his place.
So, I mean, this is this sort of a sign, because we always think that, oh, this might be a sign that, not saying that Russia's going to go down the same path as Belarus, maybe, but is this sort of a sign that people are just kind of getting a little fed up? Like they don't want to completely overturn the system, but they're just getting tired of the same guy.
Yes, but also I feel like Belarus is going to be a very telling story, because Belarus is much nicer people than we are, to be honest. Because, like, have you seen their protests? The people picking stuff after them, the people taking shoes off to stand on the bench.
It's like Yeah, it's like Japan after the World Cup. They just completely clean everything.
It's incredible. Like there was not a move of aggression on the part of the nation because they are fighting for their voice and they're doing it like in a nice manner. Like I'm getting choked up like talking about this because I have people like living in Belarus, friends of mine, and I think that would be a great show of how it could be done.
Mm-hmm.
And for Russians, it may be a show of how it should be done. But the thing with Russia is territorially, we're huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's to manage this amount of people over this amount of kilometers for anybody would be a ridiculous task. Like, and this is why Navalny is poisoned now. Like, because he used to have those, he still has those ridiculous shows on YouTube, 4 or 5 hours long, just talking about shit that's going on in Russia. He has incredible journalists working for him. Like I'm a frequent viewer of his channel, and it's just about everything. He was very listening to him. You know, he has a point of view, and he's gonna tell you the point of view. But he was also very honest about a lot of things.
Okay, so I mean, I guess it feels like every time there's opposition in Russia. I remember you mentioned this when I interviewed you in St. Pete after the show, which is that you're saying, yes, we do have the opposition, but does the opposition ever get a chance to be the opposition? And I thought I think of like Boris Nemtsov, you know, and like obviously this isn't the first time someone's been poisoned. I mean, on paper, yes, Russia is not the Soviet Union anymore, but it's sort of, it's still sort of. I mean, is there? What do you think? Future-wise, is this going more and more?
I think there is a saving grace, and it's called internet.
Mm.
The moment all the Belarusian protests went online, I've spoken to a girl. She works for Telegraph, and she went to Minsk during the presidential elections. She's like, I woke up and there was no internet. And for 3 days, there was not, that happened, right?
Yeah. They shut down the internet
They shut down internet. Yeah. Which was a genius move on the side of dictatorship, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
you always know you're right when you shut down the internet.
I know, because nobody could communicate. And right now what's happening, they have 3 leaders of the opposition party in 3 different countries managing their Telegram accounts and managing their people through internet. Mm-hmm. And this really breaking borders on those kilometers. And that made no sense, did it? Like, they're really breaking the problem apart with the internet connection, basically. Yeah. And the videos and the talks, and Navalny is now like in every bedroom with YouTube, and we have a voice.
That's nice. Because when I interviewed Andre, he was at a cafe, and there was sort of one of the things he was mentioning, because I didn't know this until Andre was mentioning, and then we started seeing it in the news, which was that people were getting snatched off the street.
Absolutely. And it was ridiculous. The moment the internet went up, there's this channel called Nexta, and they had all the videos of all the people, like the guy walking his dog being shot, and the guys being beaten up by policemen 6-on-1. And the guys, like women, being taken out the streets.
The opposition leader, right?
No, like the opposition leaders came after normal people, walking around people. There was this is an incredible story from a couple of days ago. Not far from the square where they have protests in Minsk, there is a cafe, something with le plaisir, something with Paris. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. And people were going away from the protest, and the policemen started hitting them, like started chasing them, and they ran into the cafe, and the policemen trashed the cafe, absolutely, like old windows and everything. Next day, the line to the cafe is about like 150 people because they're coming to support the owners.
Wow.
And there was the Navalny Live journalists in there, and they were coming up to people like, "Why are you here?" They're not allowed to say like protest or not protest, or nothing like that, because that could be,
Yeah, they're smart. They're smart.
into account.
They know exactly what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were coming up to people like, "Why are you here today?" And they say, "I've heard that it's the best coffee today in Belarus."
Wow, that is that is a show of solidarity. I mean, it's insane. The time we're living in. I mean, everything just seems to be going to shit. But
Yeah,
but
2020. Eh?
but then you have those. But there's that the canary in the coal mine. There's that one thing that you kind of take away from it all. Even in the midst of everything. And I think especially because I mean, look, Lukashenko's been in power for 20 years, and I've been 26. Yeah, and I've been seeing
20 is
documentary.
Putin. You're mixing up. That's
Oh, right.
too. But still,
I need to add on another 20 for Putin. And then I feel like I think it'll be like Futurama when they have the politician's head in the jar for Putin. They're just going to keep doing that for Russia.
The thing about Lukashenko is he doesn't get a clue.
He doesn't. No.
He's been doing it for 26 years. I think he's still in awe and disbelief that this is happening. She's like, I'm going to send police. I'm going to snatch people and send them to Poland or Latvia, Lithuania, and it's going to go away. I'm not looking. It's not going to happen. Like, I feel like there's some changes to the brain, or he can't be that dumb. Like if I've ever seen a person who can't take a clue.
Yeah, I was saying that it's sort of like when someone breaks up with you and they just can't seem to get a clue, and they keep circling your house in their car, just kind of stalking you. The
problem is usually you can call police for that. How do you call police on president?
Well, yeah, he has the police on his side, so that's the problem. No, because I asked Andres, like one of the things I was curious about was that because this seems to have a similar development as Romania in 1989.
I'm out of depth here.
No. So the leader in 1989, like that was like the last socialist sort of leader. He people were just tired of him, and he shows up to like a route, like a workers union thing, and everyone's just shouting at him, "Get out! We're done with you! Shut up! Leave the country, whatever." And then he ends up, getting captured and getting shot. So he has a trial for one day and he gets shot. But the thing is,
one way to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean that's. But for him, it was sort of the same thing as Lukashenko. He just couldn't understand how the people didn't love him. It's like Gaddafi. It's like, what? Don't you love me? But I am the all benevolent, all loving dictator.
Yes, but also Gaddafi was a very hysterical as a personality, and he was a dictator, but he was like coming from the bottom, now we're here. He's very, very much that in his funny clothing and everything.
Right.
But I feel like in our day and age, something like that will not happen, just because we are not the people who would solve the problems as we used to. Just because something's got to give. Like killing somebody is not an option if you try to be the good guy. Mm-hmm. But that's like my humble opinion.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good point. I think we just still, in the 80s and 90s, we might have still had that sort of old school World War II kind of, we'll just solve it by the gun. But yeah, it's true. We are living in a more complicated world. But I mean, another thing I wanted to sort of touch on was you said obviously you guys have moved to another house right now for stand-up comedy. Moscow is. You said Moscow was has
opening
their own club now. Mm-hmm. I mean that's great because one of the things that I was really when we went to the St. Petersburg Comedy Festival. First of all, I love the fact that St. Petersburg has their own version of the Fringe. And how much like how cool it was that we got our own VIP passes. Like I felt like this is the first time in my life.
got him.
I still got mine too. It was the first time in my life I ever felt like a celebrity. Me and Danton, after the show, we went out partying, and we still had the passes on. And I think we went to like a drag show or something in St. Petersburg, and we literally like people were in line, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, come do." They just like they waved us in because we were famous comedians. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I did an open mic night last night. Yeah, come in. And there were adverts on the subway, and it was just, I remember thinking, like, this is, I like how, how, first of all, how seriously they're taking this, because none of our family members do when we start out. But I thought to myself, you know what? This actually just goes to show that it's Eastern and Central Europe that really, I think, are the futures for a lot of really good comedy.
Can I share this? Because this is right in line of what you said about her relatives. My mom visited my show for the first time last month. We did the big feature show. The guys came in. We did the big show. My mom doesn't speak English, mind you. We do the whole show. I come up to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, what do you think? I need to go back to the gym. And I'm like, okay, Mom, what do you think about the show? And she goes, oh, that was nice. People were laughing. Like, I think you should do this professionally. Thanks, Mom. That was so funny. Just a little Jewish woman that me. She's actually very supportive in general. Just this choice of words, let's say.
Yeah, I feel like only a Jewish mother would be able to do nothing but stuff their child with food until they are 2 years old, and then say, "Oh, I need to go to the gym." Oh, and then complain. And I just does that, like, you have that in your identity in your comedy, right? Did you use that a lot in Russia? Or?
A lot, and in Russia it's much easier because in Russia a lot more people realize who Jews are. Like when you go to I don't know, Norway, I had to insert a bit in my show to explain who Jews are.
Okay, because they don't.
Frame of reference.
Yeah.
Because, my first show in Berlin was in Neil Numm's club.
Mm-hmm. Is that the Cosmic Comedy?
The Cosmic Comedy, of course.
Yeah.
Cosmic Comedy, and coming in the first moment on my stage, I got like, great, my first day in Berlin, and I'm already in the cellar. And
I mean, you're Russian. You naturally attract to the cellars of Berlin to seek out who you're seeking out.
The glory, yeah. And but before that, in Scandinavia, I had to do the bit that, like, Jews. Do you know Jews? And I see some of you nod, and some of you go, not anymore. And we played on that a little bit, and yeah, I had to explain. I haven't, and it actually scares me about, like, the stuffing and the critique, because I feel like I'm turning into my mother. Like, I'm hitting 30, and I have a tendency to stuff my guests with food now.
Mm-hmm. There are worse qualities to have for someone who's having guests over. I mean, that's especially in
Probably
one of the things that I think not enough people know about. I mean, the best kept secret, I think, cuisine-wise, is in Russia. I mean, is in Russia, Ukraine. I mean, I'm not just talking about Georgian food, because
Georgian.
I know, right? I mean, dude,
the cheese, the meat, the everything.
Cheese is everything. Just like, imagine the worst thing you can do to your body in the best possible form. That is Georgian food. Like I think I had khinkali and borscht every single day when I was in Russia. It's just,
that was delicious.
It's delicious. It's great. It's a hangover killer, by the way. And there's I think it sort of feeds into the sort of ethos that is Russia, which is that.
Have you ever tried solyanka?
I have, yeah.
Now that's a hangover cure. Like 5 types of meats, including the smoked ones.
Yep. Yeah,
Gonna
I
do
feel.
it.
Well, the thing is that like the countries that usually have the best hangover food are also the ones that have really good wine and really good
Hangovers.
alcohol.
Oh.
Cha-cha. Yeah, well, yeah, there's that too. But like you have like cha-cha, Georgian wine, really sweet. Obviously, like you drink it, you feel like, okay, my face is going to feel like it's completely bloated tomorrow, and I'm not going to be someone who's going to want to live for 2 days afterwards.
That's if you're lucky to feel your face. Because I tried cha-cha from like Georgian babushkas.
Have you ever been? Have you been to
Georgia?
Tbilisi? Have you been to
Yeah.
Tbilisi? Because I know they have I follow them on Facebook, the comedy club Tbilisi.
Because
They
of Nate?
yeah. That was because I remember how angry a lot of the Russians got. Because when I was over there in St. Pete, that was during the time when Putin banned the direct flights from from Russia to Georgia.
Yeah.
Have they resumed? Are they back on?
We're back. We're
Yeah.
back. We actually had a really nice interview with Nate. And Nate was my first star that we brought to St. Petersburg.
Mhm.
The guys helped me out tremendously, and he flew in. And this was the start of St. Pete's Comedy Cabinet. He was a headliner for the show.
So he was the start. He was the first
Yeah.
headliner. This
The
is
first invited guest.
oh nice. I mean, and what are the plans for sort of I guess down the line? Obviously, with COVID and everything, everything's sort of
We're having a show on 27th with Sam Rhodes. He's flying in from London.
really.
Yeah.
And there's no quarantine sort of situation there. Or?
He had to pass a test, obviously, to give to the airlines. But apparently, it's all good now. He's going to have show in Moscow, and he's going to have show here. I'm going to be hosting, and opening him would be Masha, also a Russian comedian in English.
Wow. So this is. I mean, did you have any restrictions at the club itself? I mean, are there distancing sort of rules or?
We had for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And like the tables were really apart and stuff like that. But I guess then it became legal to just go in a normal regime, and now we have like packed house.
Wow. All right. So I mean, this is. I mean, you guys are obviously now back to normal.
Yes, but we're waiting for the second wave.
Right.
Also, there's a scare of second wave. The guys came in from Moscow for the show, the previous one, and they go like, we thought that in Moscow nobody gives a fuck about COVID, but you don't know the meaning of not giving a fuck until you come to St. Pete. So that happened, and we're waiting for the second wave, but also very matter-of-factly. Like I had a conversation a couple of days ago with my friends in like group chat, and one of my friends is inviting us to her event, and the other friend is like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't, I have COVID. Like, I'll see you in 10 days. Like, if everything's okay in 10 days, I'll be there. Like, and I will not be afraid to get sick again. It's very like, it's weird to not have a sense of scent.
Yeah. You lose your sense of smell, you lose your sense of taste, and everything. But I guess that is sort of a glass half full kind of mindset to have. Like, I'll see you in 10 days.
And I will be absolutely COVID free and free to like hug anybody because I'll have immunity.
Well, that's it. We don't know that yet. I mean, there's been people who've gotten it twice, right?
So, like, if we think about the virus nature of it, it's probably like the common cold or like the common COVID, because there are a lot of them, and some animals have them, some people have them, different ones usually, and unlike COVID-19, and we generally get that as a disease in like winter time, and you get immunity for like a month or two, and it then comes back. It's probably have the same dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, you're obviously you're Jewish, so I'll trust you when it comes to illness. This is something you've researched just to the fullest.
No, just trust me because I'm friends with the director of the biggest laboratory in Russia who actually developed the Russian COVID test.
That's another thing I wanted to ask. The vaccine. You guys have a vaccine, right?
We have a vaccine. More so, this friend of mine is going to be in the third wave of trials when they're trying on humans, which I think he's fucking crazy for doing that.
There's a lot of faith. That's a lot of faith.
That's a lot of faith because it's like probably, from what I've heard, it's his friend's lab that did that.
Mm-hmm.
And they went through 2 rows of trials, and the last one is trial on people. So he's going to be in that trial, apparently.
So
like, I would never freaking do that.
So he might walk out with a tail, or
Yeah, that's not how that works.
Yeah, I mean, that's it was an interesting sort of. I remember the news came out when they said Russia has a vaccine. It just came out of nowhere. It's like Russia has a vaccine. We're like, what?
Oh, God, did you love the cover, or did you love the cover of Time? I think it was Times with the Putin with the syringe going like James Bond.
Yes.
Incredible cover.
Yeah, you know that he printed that out and has it on his wall right now.
Absolutely, I have it on my wall. Come on, genius.
Yeah, after being the bad guy in every James Bond film, it's nice to sort of get a little bit of redemption.
Not even James Bond, like this new Nolan film, like the Tenet.
Oh, Tenet, yeah.
Again, like, what did Russians ever do to you? I know what they did to you, but what they did do to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you Russians get tired of that? They're always portrayed as the bad guy in every. Like, I guess during the Cold War you understand because you needed an obvious bad person. But is it just getting old?
Well, we have Americans as a butt of a joke in our movies, so I think it's fair trade.
So you like in your movies, Americans are always the bad guys.
More like dumb.
Dumb. Okay. Yeah.
There's no way around it. I'm sorry. Like we cannot see America as a threat in our movies because I think it does not align with the idea of the party.
Yeah.
But we can make them dumb.
I mean, it's you don't have to make them dumb. They do that very well on their own. There is a reason why if there's a reason why most documentaries are narrated by British people. Because if it was
because it's sexy.
I don't think it's no. It's just it has a sophistication to it that wouldn't reverberate the same way if it was an American describing a pelican. The pelican's mating season is usually around this. Nobody would take that seriously. But I don't know because I know that for example, Die Hard, like in the first Die Hard. The Hans Gruber and all the bad guys were German, and a buddy of mine who's German told me that actually because they dub everything in Germany, they in the German version all the bad guys are English, so they just sort of switch out the bad guy roles for whatever country they I don't know lost the football game to or.
I hate when people do that in dabbing because sometimes you get like bad dabbing and they say the correct words and like you can see in their lips that it's like even if it's not bad dubbing and you can't hear the English part, somebody's just say what the fuck, and I don't know. The translation is I'm very upset. It's just. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I hate it. And this is not what she said.
I saw an old. I saw a dubbed movie that was American, but it was dubbed in Russian. And for some reason, they found every time the woman spoke, they had this really deep voiced man speaking for her. So they'd be like, "Oh, and like, oh, thank you so much, Throughout
the 90s, we had one celebrity voiceover dude who was doing it for every movie. There was a specific voice for every movie, every American movie, because he was cheap. He was doing it, I think, at home, and he was widespread, and we call them goblin, which is the part of Ring and Hobbit.
Ring and Hobbit? Sorry, what?
Rings, Hobbit, the journey. How's it called? Somebody's gonna hate me for that. One ring to rule them all.
Oh, Lord of the Rings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think he dubbed Lord of the Rings.
He dubbed everyone. He dubbed Gollum. He dubbed the Gandalf. He dubbed Frodo.
He
everyone.
Everything, and he was very, very famous. I think he still works.
Did they just not have a budget to pay more than one person?
I don't think there was I think it was on his own account.
Oh, right. So it wasn't official.
To start with. And it wasn't official because officially we had much bigger fishes to fry to dub American movies. Like 90s was an interesting time.
Yeah. I got stories from that from a lot of the comics saying that you did not want to be in Russia in the 90s.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to.
It was a very volatile time. But it's better now. I mean,
very unruly.
St. Petersburg is going good. Moscow's going good. I mean, is the countryside? Are you guys doing any shows in the?
I don't think the guys had started since pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But they did. I went to Yekaterinburg this summer to see my
really?
brother. Yeah, and that was very sad. For some reason, because I remember when I moved to Prague, I was coming back every year, and there was a summit of like Big 8 summit?
G8.
Yeah, there was a summit, and there was like this, and there was that, and they were rebuilding the town. It was beautiful, and it was becoming more beautiful each year.
Mm-hmm.
But I come back now, and maybe it's because of pandemic, because they started a lot of renovations and they never finished it. Like the middle of the town looks like the Second World War is still going on, because
just scaffolding and really. Well, I mean, but hey, it's I guess it just things just take time. Russians do have a sense of patience that I've never seen with any other nationality. They love. I mean, because in my bits, my stand-up, no country, and I say this also, Russia and Ukraine, has enjoyed my story bits more than any other country. Like I'll do a few jokes, like yes, I like this good. But then when I start doing the bits, like my closer, which takes like 5 minutes, everyone's just locked in, like, oh yes, I like story. I like this story. I mean, it's just they have so much patience. They, every book by Dostoevsky or Tolstoy, they could have ended 500 pages earlier, but they just drag it on. They love that lengthy sort of storytelling.
I think it's the love of suffering with Dostoevsky and Tolstoy and like War and Peace. I've read all War and Peace, but because I've challenged myself to. And that was a fun little challenge for a teenage Allie, and I think I failed like couple hundred pages, but still. And I don't know, it's also very much in our culture. Like every time going to sleep, our grandmothers would read us books and like Pushkin and things like that.
So the classics.
It's a very wholesome point in our lives. It's a very wholesome moments that we hold dear.
No, it's a good thing to have. I think, like, to be honest, I do think that stand-up is going to become, and I maintain this, that Russia is going to be a hotspot for stand-up comedy within 5-10 years. I mean, I saw this is just my initial perspective of being there and being, partying and doing shows for 2 weeks. But there was something about it. It was my first night when I landed in St. Pete. We did the first. Well, I had the first show that was moved back one night, so I did the show literally the same night I landed, and then after the show, we headed out and we went to. There was this one sort of bar area where a lot of the comics were meeting up, and it was just I didn't understand a lot of them. They didn't speak English, but there was just something about just it confirmed this sort of idea that when comics meet, you don't have to speak the language, but there is that international language of comedy. There's
I also feel like, yeah, in Russia, it's a very peculiar concoction because laughter is the best cure for pain and tension. There's a lot of pain and tension, and also we are historically very smart people. Like all the Jews ran to Russia at some point, so we really enriched the intellectual potential, and the Russians themselves are, like, in general, brilliant people, like researchers and scientists, and I'm dabbling in neuroscience right now.
Of course,
I mentioned casually, and no, I'm getting another education in neuropsychology because I'm really interested in that, and this is what I do with my time. And like the biggest names that are in the weirdest places in science, there are from Russia, from Georgia, from like post-Soviet countries, because we had an incredible incredible medicine and incredible medical research. As far as we are back in like psychology and social studies and general tolerance of other people, we are very in the forefront. We were in the forefront of medical research.
Well, I mean, it's never ceases to amaze. This is another reason why I want to come back there. I always feel like I learned a lot when I was in Russia. A lot of sort of stereotypes that were blown out of the water for me, and I do feel that more comedians should be traveling there. I mean, not just that musicians. It's sort of it's a hidden gem. It doesn't get the credit.
You're very welcome to come to Russia. Contact me directly.
I would love to.
I'm going to put you on that stage. Take me up on that, because I am fighting tooth and nail to have English-speaking comedy scene in St. Petersburg.
I literally just cannot wait. I would love to come back, and I think that's something we should sort of strive to do. And you need to come to Iceland as well. We need to get you. We need to get you at the comedy club. You think Russians are depressed in a cold place? So you should come to Iceland.
Wow, what an advertising!
I know. Ellie, it's so good to see you again. So good to talk to you. I wish you all the best.
It was amazing talk. It went very grim at some points, but
but that's how it is. A good story needs the grim points, but then it always rebounds on everything's going to be okay.
How about that? Good story needs a bad guy.
Exactly. There you go. We'll be the bad guys. Ellie, great to see you again. All the best.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, all the best. I owed you one for the last podcast. All right. We'll be in touch. All right.
Be in touch.
Bye bye.